I have a letter saying that if you are so desperate, madam, we can offer you MAiD, medical assistance in dying.
It's better than blowing your brains out against the wall. That is what he told me, she said.
This is a damning indictment of the government's handling of this bill, Madam Speaker.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kevin Dunn. Welcome to Life on Film, a presentation of the National March for Life, where we look at films that underscore the dignity of the human person. Before we get to tonight's feature, I would like to give you a little update on a film I'm working on, my company, Dunn Media. It's called Roe Canada, The True North in a Post-Roe World. I'm sure you've heard a little bit about it. We've been chatting about it on Life on Film. It was part of the National March for Life last year. We had an early cut of the film. And right now we've got some exciting news, which is, of course, the fact that the film is complete and we are launching it for screenings through the month of November and onwards. So if your church or organization would like to screen the film, please do get in touch with us at roecanadafilm.com. If you haven't heard about the film, here's a sneak peek.
Roe v. Wade has now been reversed and thrown into the ash heap of history.
The only reason that we won this particular fight was because we didn't give up.
We have to not be afraid in this fight. Lives are on the line. We have to be bold. We have to be courageous.
It's bullshit and disturbing and problematic.
There will be no peace until we protect the child in the womb. I will use the issue of abortion to turn over your apple cart until you are so sick of it, the only way to make the headache go away is to make abortion go away.
The overturning of Roe v. Wade, I would say it's had a ripple effect already around the world.
The Supreme Court of Canada in R.V. Morgentaler did not conclude that there is a constitutional right to abortion in Canada.
Prime Minister, do you believe in equal rights for all human beings?
If we don't have the right to life, then we have no other rights at all.
It's a dire situation, and we need to see change.
It's time to stop sidestepping this issue and just address it straight on. 300 babies die every day in Canada because of abortion. That is what we need to address.
Can you imagine a country where abortion is permitted throughout all 9 months of pregnancy for any reason or for no reason at all? That is Canada until we collectively decide we've had enough and we change it.
What do you think about abortion?
So there you have it, Roe Canada now on as far as screenings go across the country. If you would like to screen the film, your church, your organization, please let us know through roecanadafilm.com. I'd like to thank the National March for Life for allowing me to plug my film, Dunn Media's new film. And it's going to be, hopefully it's a game changer and starts the discussion on such an important issue, abortion here in Canada and our lack of law. It's just an absolute atrocity that we have no legal protection for the unborn in this country. And, we pray just like the States. And who would have thought it would happen there where the overturning of Roe v. Wade happened? Nobody probably thought it could ever happen. But, with God, anything is possible. And through the prayers of so many people through the years, Roe was overturned. Of course, the battle is still with us in the States, in the U.S., going down to the state level. And, of course, here in Canada, it seems hopeless. But it was hopeless there. And so we just have to continue to be people of hope. And I am about to introduce two people of hope, and that is the Kooman Brothers, Daniel and Matthew. I'm speaking to you. I think I'm speaking to you in Vancouver tonight or in BC, right?
Vancouver Island, yeah.
Very good, Vancouver Island. Yes. Well, I had the opportunity to be part of this series that we are talking about tonight, MAiD in Canada. Before we get into tonight's feature, just gentlemen, first of all, how you doing?
Doing good. It's good to see you.
It's good to be seen. Tell us a little bit about the series in general. What do we need to know before we watch tonight's episode?
Yeah, this is a series about MAiD in Canada, and interviews with people who are doctors, some experts, legal experts, people who have been offered MAiD. It's for our audience to learn more about what's happening in Canada. There's 6 episodes. We've released 4. We're finishing the 5th right now. There's so much going on in Canada that people are just not aware of. And so our goal, as we've been researching MAiD, is to see how can we help people know what to do either politically or in their own lives, who they need to talk to learn more about this, to get on the front edge of this instead of working from behind for so long as we have been.
Yeah, we had you on before. You showed us your first episode. Wow, just breakthrough episode, and I know that you've received a lot of feedback from across the country, in fact from across the world, on that series. Can you speak to that, and then we'll get into tonight's feature?
Yeah, I think medical assistance in dying is a very triggering subject. I mean, you'll be hard pressed to find a family in Canada after 5 or 6 years that hasn't been affected in some way. And what we've learned in the process of this, I mean, we've learned a lot as filmmakers. We've learned a lot, and we've wanted to put a lot of those findings and learnings into the episodes to really empower people with the knowledge of what's really going on here, because there's so much more to it than, in terms of our take on it. It's like I can speak for myself, a total prohibition on euthanasia is my belief. And there's other people that have varying levels of belief. Some of them think that there's certain cases where euthanasia should be considered. And when it comes down to it, when we've interviewed disability advocates and people from different, mental health advocates, and where this is headed and how quickly even a psychologist who had performed MAiD in Canada, he has literally hung up his cloak, if that's what you want to call it, and said, I can't do this. There's no possible way that we could assess adequately according to what guidelines there are. And so we've just discovered that, it's Murphy's Law. If you crack the door, the slippery slope is inevitable. Mm-hmm. And so you have to close the door. And whether or not people fully agree with that take, there's just enough in here for you to just actually learn about the issue in a more full and holistic way, so that you can have your own decision about it. And that's kind of what we want the episodes to do for people.
Wow. We have to talk about that after, because in my experience in interviewing people for Fatal Flaws, when we were filming Fatal Flaws, which dealt with the same issue, only euthanasia, which of course is the exact same thing, called by a different name in the Netherlands. Some doctors, they needed 3-4 days off work after. I mean, this was not meant for the human condition. And when you speak to the people that you have across the country, I know this particular episode, you deal with Canada's veterans, and what's happening, not just in the kind of the mire, but actually from our own government institutions. Can you set the film up for us, tonight's episode? Because it seems very strange that we're hearing about this from our own government.
Yeah, well, I think it kind of came to the forefront that there was somebody from a veteran who had been offered MAiD. It came out in a committee hearing on Parliament Hill, and it came across from the government that it was a one-off. And what we learned as we started asking some questions is that that's not true at all. That this has been offered to multiple veterans from different people in different offices. Different veterans are being offered this. And so clearly there's some kind of a mandate that's been handed out, maybe behind closed doors or however it was, but people are being offered MAiD who really they shouldn't be talking about this on the phone with somebody who's supposed to be helping them. And so we went and interviewed Christine Gauthier, who's became a unwanted poster child for MAiD because of being offered it from Veterans Affairs. And so we interviewed Christine, and we interviewed a few other veterans and talked a little bit about some of the mental health issues that they deal with and how Canada is taking a very negative step with their veterans as it goes with MAiD. And it's really shocking that this is even something that came up, and the fact that it not just came up, but it's actually like a policy that is coming forward from Veterans Affairs is shocking and needs to be addressed. And so we really wanted to hear the human story of that from Christine, especially, who's suffered so much, but is also a hero, not only as a veteran, but was a Paralympian, won world championships in Paralympics, like in Paralympic sport. She's a role model for Canadians. And here she is being offered a terrible solution for her life. We need to hear about this. So we're sharing her story and the context of that.
All right, well, let's have a look. This is the second episode in MAiD in Canada, a series created by the Kooman Brothers on UnveilTV. You'll hear a little bit more about that when we wrap the program. It's a great episode. Please do sit back and enjoy and take in MAiD in Canada, episode number 2 at Canada's Heroes.
So it is one thing to be suicidal and depressed, and having to fight that on top of everything else. To have someone, as you're battling this, trying to fight this off every day, and you have somebody just cannonly coming to tell you, you know, if you're really that fed up, and you really feel you can't go on anymore, you know, you have the right to die. Made it sound so easy, so candid, so just like that, it's done. It was incomprehensible for me.
The number of Canadians dying by MAiD is growing, on track to become one of the most permissive euthanasia jurisdictions in the world.
This government is focused very much on respecting Canadians' rights, defending their choices and allowing them choices while at the same time protecting the most vulnerable in society.
We've gone from assisted suicide to assisted dying to medical assistance in dying to MAiD, so that we can use a totally different term.
Given, I think, the relatively few complaints about the system that have come forward, given the numbers, I think the system's working well.
I have a letter saying that if you are so desperate, madam, we can offer you MAiD, medical assistance in dying.
Like, who gets to say whose life is valuable? And why do they get to say that?
Somebody is standing on the ledge. Do we push or do we pull? Because these are opposite things, and our society believes in both right now. What do we do?
During his original phone call with the VAC service agent, somehow in that conversation, he was told, we've done it before and we can do it for you. And the one that we've done it for and has completed MAiD, we are now supporting his wife and 2 children. This was his primary concern, to find out what in the heck are you talking about? Back in August, a Special Forces veteran came to me with a couple of audio files. Apology calls that he recorded from Veterans Affairs Canada saying, we're so sorry for offering you MAiD. His response to that was asking about the legality of it. First he asked, why are you asking me this? Well, I just thought you should know if up the road, but I'm in a good place right now. He expressed that to me that things were sunshine and roses prior to this phone call. He was feeling good about life. Post phone call, he left the country because he was devastated by this phone call. It's called sanctuary trauma, where the place you go for help steps on your neck.
Part of the issue is when someone gets injured, it's the injury becomes majorly amplified, because it's not just you're dealing with a moral injury now, or whatever that 3B release is, a medical release. Now you're dealing with a complete change of life. You're dealing with a lack of social support. You're dealing with a lack of friends and camaraderie, and you're dealing with a lack of a whole lot of stuff. And then you get the sanctuary trauma of Veterans Affairs having to fight for your benefits. So whatever that little nugget was of that injury now becomes amplified on an order of magnitude, and we really just can't help with that. So it has to be fixed while you're still in, kind of deal, and it's so hard to get services or the proper services or get listened to, and so we get told what our problems are a lot of times. We get told, and it doesn't work for that, right? It's like, just listen. And the whole problem from day one when someone gets an injury is nobody's been listening to them because the protocols and scripts are already written.
This is incredibly alarming, to hear this account that, it was pushed upon him, and to the point where it caused him to, be in a far worse place than he was prior to the phone call. But also the fact that we hear there was another veteran, that was followed through with in that case, because we weren't obviously informed of that prior.
When he was reaching out to Veterans Affairs Canada, he just was looking for different supports. He didn't want to die. He was in a good place. When that was offered to him, it devastated him. He was so upset, and his family was so upset, that because how it went was, oh, by the way, if up the road you have suicidal thoughts, let us help you. What are you talking about? What do you mean, let us help you? Well, we have medical assistance in dying, so if you have suicidal thoughts, we can do that for you in a nice, clean method with a doctor.
I'm a little bit astonished by all of this. According to you, and you have a transcription, what can you actually tell us on the content? What brought the employee to speak about MAiD, to offer MAiD?
It's better than blowing your brains out against the wall. That is what he told me she said. Very sensitive of her.
Okay.
Because he said the words in the transcript, "Why did you ask this of me? Why are you talking about this?" Well, just in case, up the road. She was pushing it like a bad used car salesman. It was pushed. And he asked about the legality of it. How is this legal? He asked the VAC manager. How is this legal? This can't be legal. You can't push this on people. And that is not reflective of the testimony that I heard on Wednesday. And that makes me angry. Because integrity is doing the right thing regardless of the consequences. And I know that I'm threatening two people's jobs today by saying this.
I got in the army 13 days after my 18th birthday. So signed in and thought I would probably take a little life experience before I transferred back into police officer at that time. They were looking for women to come into test trial for combat arms unit. So I was part of the first 7 women to test if women would be allowed in combat arms trade. During the obstacle course training, I had to jump into a 6-foot trench, and there were rocks in the bottom. So I landed on the rocks and my knees went out of joint and the spine followed and so on. My life as I knew it is devastated. Everything is coming to an end. I mean, at that point, you can't even get answers. I didn't even know at the time, what will I live off? I mean, realistically, I'm losing my job, I'm losing everything I know. What am I gonna even live off? Because they tell you, well, we can't tell you now, we're gonna have to evaluate you once you're out. Well, how is this not done between 96 and 98? You have 2 years, you accepted me already, but you won't have any of this done before. So I lost everything. I lost my house because I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. I lost everything. And they kept telling you at this point, well, don't worry, miss, because you have your claim it was in. So don't worry, it's retroactive. Your date is protected. But yet it takes 2 more years for anything to come in. Well, the bank didn't want to wait that long, even though it was retroactive. None of the payment you need to fill are going to be willing to wait all this time. So life goes on, but it seems that for the system, everything is put on hold.
The big problem starts when you leave the army, okay? You'll be there 20 years, 25 years, and you're not ready to go out. you still have, at the end of your career, between 45 and 50 years old.
When they came to my door to evaluate me, they thought my year of birth was my age. They were shocked when they opened the door and they asked for me. And they were expecting a 70-year-old woman. No. I'm 29. I was born in 70. As I've seen psychologists for the following few years, that's one thing that they kept coming back to me with. You're not depressed enough for everything you're living. And it was like, I feel pretty much that the only thing I need, the last thing I need now, more on top of everything else, is also to be depressed or to be on depression. So I just wanted to try to keep forward and trying to get answers and just trying to know and find where I'm gonna fit in this and what is gonna happen. Like day in and day out, they wouldn't stop. You're really not depressed enough for what you're living. And I'm like, well, thank you. I'm happy that I'm not. I'm happy that I'm trying to try to find an answer, but can you just please help me do that? Like help me get mobile, help me move it, and help me get set up.
It's hard to, because there's so many things. If it'd be one or two, there's so many things that's wrong in Canada. It's I can't find words. The system is just royally screwed. I think government should be taking care of veterans and old people first, and then go from there.
The first time I was treated in a pain management clinic, I was so doped out and on so much medication that I wasn't able to function at all. I was seriously deranged, if I may say, and seriously dangerous. I kept telling my doctor I don't want to be on this. It's not helping me in any way because I keep injuring myself from falling down the stairs. I can't drive. I can't go anywhere. I don't have a life like this. And the answer was, this is the protocol you need to be on for us to treat you. So I said, no, I refuse to stay this way. If I can't live and it's just to put me down, sit down in a corner and be quiet there, it's not life. I don't want this as a life. So it was really hard to take myself off those protocol medication for a long time. Personally, they've just tried to keep me very quiet and very inactive and very depressed, either by medication, by pot, which in the spring of 2022, just stopped taking 20 of the 28 pills they were giving me. And it lifted up a huge cloud over my head. In December 22nd, I had to have a follow-up with my surgeon. And once he's seen on TV how I have to get around in the house, he wrote a letter stating this is unacceptable. Hold on. I will.
I feel pressure to complete the mission. So this is
Do you feel, so this is supposed to represent how you have tears and injuries.
Yeah, I can feel that already.
Because you'll be needing those as you go up. So now I only put on the shoulders. You can raise this one maybe a bit.
Were you going to strap my legs?
Yeah, I will put a strap around my legs as well. This is why I already had to do surgery on your spine, cervical, lumbar. And he writes in this letter, I believe, until otherwise proven, Madame Gauthier, that you suffer of an interspinous ligament D5, D7 level due to obligation to go up and down the stairs at your home with your arms, since you do not have an elevator. If the MRI showed that the discs are adequate to those levels, if the interspinous block were positive, we would go with the zoned innervation by organ crown therapy, which is a definite treatment for pain, but only exists in private medical practice. So We will contact you after the MRI to evaluate the state of your disc to the 5D7 level. And so, inside of an initial cryotherapy, you are in need of support for your current daily mobilization and movements. Yeah, cheating a bit, but it's okay. Don't go too much on the edge because you'll fall down and you won't have control. So you need the chair to be in front of you.
Chair is in front.
Yes. You can, like,
okay.
You're gonna, I would say, you would hold it from this, hold on a bit, bring it. Yeah, so all these equipment that are just mandatory, that should just be a renewal and should come in very easily, are ridiculously long in the process and not realistically by any means. I don't understand in any way, means, or reason how it can take 5 years to have an elevator, 12 years for a chair, 4 years for the renewal of the same equipment you had in your old car be transferred into a new. It's beyond reason. And as you enjoy the slide down, remember you'll have to do this back upwards afterwards.
Hard on the left arm.
Yeah.
Whoa. I just realized this is short.
Yep. Yeah, what's the railing? It's not that safe.
See, look.
Viens, en arrière. Pousse. Yeah.
I would probably go like this. And then.
And that's good purpose.
Never felt so weak in my upper body. Totally weak.
With all the injuries added on, and it's ridiculous. And did you find that would be a better option on 200 feet? So you see what I mean? It's a shorter distance. It's a fucking ram in.
Yeah.
But this one, I can't do it either. Can you do it again? I was doing my coffee.
So she tore her shoulder and needed surgeries and things because of this.
On le fera après, on va le faire après. Non, mais je te l'enverrai après quand Jules va revenir, je lui demanderai de le faire. Mais je le sais, j'en ai des photos.
Christine, I'm bleeding.
T'es pas beau?
You know what though? At least you got a letter from the Prime Minister's office.
Saying he's very sympathetic. He's very sympathetic to everything you're going through.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yes.
It makes you feel good.
Hey, I was really proud that I can vote coming election time. Not for him, because I never did.
So after my testimony in Ottawa, another veteran came forward to me. He came forward to me the night before the next testimony in Ottawa was going to happen, and they're all ready to sweep it all under the carpet despite my testimony. Like, this is just a one-off, they said. It's isolated incident, which of course is completely false. The investigation that I've been able to do, the evidence I've been able to collect, has proven that there's at least minimum 5 caseworkers from 5 different provinces that offered a veteran MAiD. So I know this, but they're still saying that, oh no, we have no evidence of that. Well, how would you find evidence without an investigation? They said that they sent it to the RCMP. Well, that is really interesting. Because if they sent this to the RCMP, I'm the star witness. I never got a call. If they're doing an internal investigation, well, I can point them in the right direction. I've never got a call. Nobody from Veterans Affairs has ever asked me about any of this. Like, hey, could you let us know so we make sure that we know everybody that's been affected by this? Can you point us in the right direction? What files should we be looking at? Oh no. And then when Christine Gauthier went to testify about something else entirely, my friend Bruce Moncoeur chimed in something about MAiD, and then she's like, oh yeah, MAiD. She put up her hand. That was offered to me, said Christine Gauthier. And everybody's heads exploded. What?
With respect to MAiD, I have a letter in my file because I had to face that as well. I have a letter saying that if you are so desperate, madam, we can offer you MAiD, medical assistance in dying.
There is no secret that from 2000, when I started going through all of this, and I was being told that I wasn't depressed enough, well, they did catch up with me, and I became very depressed with time. Having to try to learn to live with disability and everything that it brings in, yes, I have become very, very depressed, suicidal even. So it is one thing to be suicidal and depressed, and having to fight that on top of everything else. And to have someone, as you're battling this, trying to fight this off every day, and you have somebody just cannonly coming to tell you, you know, if you're really that fed up, and you really feel you can't go on anymore, you know, you have to right to die, made it sound so easy, so candid, so just like that, it's done. It was incomprehensible for me.
You know, take a pill, shoot yourself, you know, it's not the kind of things you say to somebody on the phone. Look, forget the elevator. Here, have a little shot. We'll put you out of your misery, just like a dog, you know. Later, you know, you're not important. Here, take a pill or a shot and get yourself, go to heaven. And thank you for your service.
Here's a Paralympian, Invictus Games athlete. The Canadian government uses the images of Christine Gauthier in their promotional, in their promotions. So they use her as the literal poster girl, and they offered to kill her. And instead of going, oh my God, we're so sorry, they're like, oh my God, this is too big of a name for us to, like we have to deny until they die. And they called her a liar. Of course, not in those words. Instead, Minister McCauley says, well, we have no evidence of that in your file. How would there be evidence of that in her file? And you want us to trust you that you were looking? You're not even looking.
First of all, there's been an indication made that I received information that somebody wrote to me indicating that that MAiD had been discussed with them. Overall, it's not the case. It is not the case.
These were outgoing calls to this veteran, outgoing, okay? He wrote at length on my VAC account, so you got it in writing. So there is a record of all of this interaction in writing on his VAC account that I don't know what the rules are for privacy, but it is in writing on his account. So to say there's no records of what happened is not true.
There's too many cracks in the pavement for this right now, and people are going to fall through those cracks. There's not enough safety measures put in place. There's not enough checks and balances. There's not been enough morality checks. I did 23 years in the military. When I first got in, I was in the Armored Corps, okay? Every single round that we fired that was a practice round was $5,500 per round, practice round. And for me to graduate and finish my course in order to be qualified as a gunner, I had to fire 54 rounds on our last qualifying exercise. Okay? That's a lot of cash. So the military spends a lot of time and energy and invest in us, and then we go and have these great careers and that kind of stuff, right? So there's a lot of betrayal going on. Like when you feel that stuff, there's a lot of betrayal going on. So when it really comes down to it, we give so much to our country and they put into us, and we become so loyal to them, and then you're offered MAiD. You know, it's the ultimate level of betrayal. You know, we'd rather have you better off dead.
So basically, anybody that's receiving my pension who wants to get MAiD can. And that's pretty terrifying.
The plan we put forward is one that respects Canadians' choices while putting into place the kinds of safeguards needed. But as we highlighted as part of the plan, the extraordinary work that the Special Joint Committee did, looking at various aspects of the difficult choices that Canadians are facing, means that we have more work to do in the coming years to look at different aspects that weren't in this particular piece of legislation, this particular plan that we've put forward.
What is happening of Canada, this country that I represented as a soldier and as an athlete? Sorry. I forget myself things 5 years down. And as I have been asked to go through all of this again, rereading everything that happened, I have forgotten a lot of these things myself. Not the most important, of course, but a lot of the things sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I can't even believe this. You know, that had happened. Because realistically, day in and day out, you're just trying to go through this one day. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I didn't think, What becomes of Canada, this country I represented as an athlete, as a military soldier, and as an athlete, in which I believe with all my being. I make you the same demand that has come to Veterans Affairs, to Minister of Veteran Affairs and the ministers. If you will not have me live with equipment, dignity, and autonomy, then you will put end to my life. Unfortunately, you will have to come and do it because my conviction and my faith prevents me from doing it. Basically, Veterans Affairs states that they only responsible to deal with my daily life activities, which is that I breathe, I eat, I shower, I sleep, and I wash my clothes. So all I'm allowed to do is change oxygen and carbon monoxide. Because I'm certainly not allowed to go outside of this door that I can't reach without injuring myself to have a barbecue or a coffee. That is not mandatory life living. You're allowed to survive, not to live. Restez ici, je vais pas It does look better. I get like very dizzy. It's so freaking long.
Welcome back, everybody. You're watching Life on Film, a presentation of the National March for Life. You just watched MAiD in Canada, Canada's Heroes. This is a series produced by Unveil Studios, the Kooman Brothers, whom we have with us. They're from Vancouver Island here in our beautiful country of Canada. And guys, I just got to say, wow, great work, Daniel. I have to start with you. There you are, living that life as best as you can, trying to, I think the idea of compassion says we walk with each other, and you really tried to walk with Christine, if you will. I use walk very lightly, of course, because she's in a wheelchair. But there you are in the wheelchair, trying to go down the stairs, trying to empathize with Christine, what her life is like now, without the supports she needs. Can you tell us why you felt that was important to do, and what you learned from the that experience?
Well, for one, I guess any sort of challenge you go into to see how difficult it is and to learn for yourself. And obviously hearing Christine's story, and when you're actually there at her place and you see just how simple it would be to provide the solution she needs, which is what her request of Veteran Affairs was, is for an elevator that would allow her to go off of her deck and get to her vehicle that is equipped for her to drive and all those things. And literally, because of bureaucracy and red tape, and honestly, like an embarrassing level of bureaucracy that is purposeful or is just completely ignorant. It's one of the two, but it sets it up so that she can't get what she needs and almost never will. And even since it's been over a year since we filmed with her, I believe, has it been that long? Something like that. But she still has had no progress with Veteran Affairs on this ramp and on this elevator lift that she's requested. Rather, as you saw in the episode, she was offered medical assistance in dying. So we were there. It's like, can we try this and see just how difficult this really is? Mm-hmm. And I was just telling Matt before this interview, I still have, you can add the click track. I have a click in my shoulder all these months later from doing that on Christine's stairs. I did it once. And it frankly was one of the more difficult things I've ever done, because as soon as a person who is able-bodied, if someone tells you to stop using your legs and then you try something with only your upper body strength, it's actually, it's almost like the impossible push-up, and the interesting thing about it is she then has to drag her wheelchair up and down the stairs. And so just doing it once, I still have months later a click in my shoulder. And it was a point of real empathy for Christine, is like, this is insanity. I mean, if only someone from Veteran Affairs or someone representing our government would go and try that themselves, they would perhaps become an advocate for her. But in that few days we spent with Christine, we're able to become advocates because there's relationship. And I think that was a big takeaway for us, is like, she talks about a time, I think it's in there. She, in the broader interview, talks about a time where they came to your door, where they were people, where they talked to you. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, all these, whatever shift has happened, I think we know in 2015, a shift took place where it was no longer personal. It was no longer door to door. It was no longer relational, and it became policy, and it became notes and numbers on a page. And that has utterly destroyed veterans in this country's relationship with the services that they require, and that we should, as Canadian citizens, truly want them to have for all the service they've done for our country. And so that was a heartbreaking thing to actually see for ourselves.
I like what was said in the series. It said, actually, I don't like what was said in the series. It says the script is already written. Like there's no personal, there's no personal dialogue going on. It's like, check the box. Well, I can't check the box. If I can't check the box, I have to move on to the next question. It's like, listen, she says, I want to live. I want to live outside of these walls. You're only giving me what I need to breathe, eat, to be able to get down the stairs, to go out to have a coffee, to go out to have a beer at the bar. It's like, this person served for our country, not only served for our country, but also served as a Paralympian, a five-time champion. I mean, not that those things matter, because dignity is not what we can do. It's who we are. Matthew, can you speak to that idea that the system is broken? And we haven't fixed the system, have we? Like the system seems to be broken, and yet we've jumped ahead to say, okay, well, even the system's broken, but we won't deal with that. Let's just offer you MAiD. Like it just seems so bizarre.
Right. Well, I think you talked about dignity. I think if you have someone like Christine who is offered MAiD, don't try and tell me that it's not going to be available for everybody. And I think that's the thing about the system that's really broken, is that it's fair game for anybody to have struggle and suffering, and for that to trump the value of life. And that's something I think that's really eye-opening in Canada right now, as they prepare to open it up for people with mental health as their sole condition to be able to get MAiD in Canada in March of 2024. That is happening. That is scheduled. It is a dignity question that, the system, maybe the system isn't broke. Maybe this is the system we're living in. We need to look at how we can change the system, how we can make a difference to change the laws. And let's say we cannot change the laws, we need to uphold the value of life. So our friends, our family, anybody we know who's suffering, we need to find a way to have touch points with those people to bring hope and to bring joy and to bring change into their life, so that it doesn't matter what the system's trying to do or what the system's done, but that we find joy. And I think with Christine, she was really down when we met with her. She's really discouraged. She wants a lift in her house, and she can't get it because the boxes won't be checked for her, even though someone could come and see and say, yeah, that it really makes sense what you're saying. Your application makes sense. Everything makes sense, but the funds don't quite align. Too much time has passed. It's more expensive than we were originally committed to. The boxes don't get checked. And so here's your alternative. What we need to do is, for Christine, we need to lift her up, and we need to encourage her, and we need to find ways to give each other reason to live, right? Like, what does our day-to-day look like? What are we looking forward to? And we need to encourage each other as, brothers and sisters, as community, that there are reasons for us to get up in the morning and to pursue life together.
Daniel, you were kind enough to bring Christine to the National March for Life last year. She got up on stage. In fact, we'll have a little look at this clip right now of yourself and Christine at the National March for Life, and then I'll ask you about your experience in Ottawa with her.
Hey everybody, I'm so honored, and I'm very honored and torn to be here at the same time. I served 10 years in the Army, proudly served 10 years in the Army. I did 2 tours. It was Israel, Darfur, Gadoka. I was injured. My injuries are 100% verbal service, no problem there. I then went on to finding a new way to serve with paddling, becoming 5-time world champion. And I have received support and equipment with Veterans Affairs since 1996. Unfortunately, the services have become a lot worse since the government is starting to privatize these services as well as many others, so we're all suffering through. Now, in the last 5 years, I've been fighting and waiting, wiggling on the floor, guy climbing upstairs to access my house with a renewal equipment of a wheelchair. It's been damaging the rest of my body, completely unbearable in any way. Talking in with one of the agents one day, telling him how this can go on. A renewal of equipment is supposed to be just a standard process. I couldn't keep going on like this. I was, at the end, I was not able to sustain this anymore. And the agent told me, if you really think you can't keep going on like this, you have the right to die. How is it at this point that after all this time, it is even an idea? Already battling and fighting suicide is hard enough. Yep. But when lacking, giving you just the equipment that you need to survive and live is not even into the works, it's better to to just put in the seed that if you really can't sustain it anymore, just you have the right to die. It is unbearable to me. I have been here many times for medal reception, for committee speaking, and it's my first time coming here, and you are giving me a great gift that I will take with me today and try to build on this strength of all of you people here to keep fighting for the right to live and not just survive in breathing and changing carbon monoxide into oxygen, because this is what government today is telling me I only can do, just for a lack of an elevator at my house. So thank you. We all need to support each other. Breathing fresh air, sun on our face, and everybody together will make a difference. We have to believe in it. Thank you.
So Christine, her full story is in a documentary series we made called MAiD In Canada. That's MAiD, MAiD In Canada. You can find it at maidincannada.org. I want every single person to write this down on their phone right now, maidincannada.org. And I found as a filmmaker that statistics do not change people's hearts, but stories change people's hearts. And this series is all about stories. The full story of Christine Gauthier is in there. There's a story in the Bible many of us hold dear. It's a story where Moses stood firm in a battlefield, and he put his arms up in an attitude of worship. And when he held his hands up in worship and he was postured in worship, the battle shifted. And I don't know if we could do this. This is out of the blue. This is just a moment, but could we all put our arms up in an attitude of worship? I don't know if this is a picture I could capture. This would be pretty cool. To stand firm in an attitude of worship with our arms towards Parliament and say, enough is enough! And we stand firm in Canada. This is a nation before God that is meant to stand firm for life. There's life from conception to the end of life. Like Christine's story, they said that your life should end before, but look at her. She's a beautiful woman. We were never made to stand alone. We were meant to stand together. So as we posture ourselves in this is a posture of victory, a hallelujah cry with our arms up saying, we will stand for this nation for life. God bless you. Thank you so much.
And there you have Christine Gauthier, who was featured in the film, speaking at the National March for Life last year, or I guess earlier this year. What was that like for her? I mean, you were with her, you were her escort for that time. From what I understand, and speaking to her just the short time that I did, it was quite moving, and there was a sense of community. She really felt, as you said, Matthew, earlier, lifted, if you will, by the community there. Daniel?
From what I can gather and what she shared in person and also follow up in the days after, it was undoubtedly the highlight of her year, maybe one of the highlights of her life. I mean, to have like-minded community who value and cherish life. And this is like the base level of where our values should be as a society. And yet the foundation has been removed, and those stones are more than eroded. I mean, they've crumbled. And I think that when you can't expect that it will be a positive discourse when you discuss life, I mean, what do you have to stand on, right? And so when you think about her story and just the fact that, wow, there was, I don't know how many thousands. I mean, that was a very incredible experience for anyone there. Thousands of people of like-mindedness who, not some radical thing, we believe in life, right? It's like, how has this become radical? And it is now. And I think being surrounded by people who believe in life, it means that you're going to be encouraged. You're going to share things with each other that uplift you. You're going to have hope for the future. I mean, you literally feel the intangible things, like those words that seem big, like hope and faith and love. You actually feel those present with you when you're in a community like that. And you have something that you can take. And that is, to me, like what Matt was saying as well, and what the message of our series is, how can we as a society in Canada get back to the core focal point of like life is valuable. And in weird ways, we say that in other things. Mm-hmm. We say like, oh, we'll do anything to save this person. Or if there's a hostage situation, or if there's a child is lost in the woods, we will do anything to save one life. So we do have that innately in us, but we need to get back as a society to like, man, all of these foundational things like, wow, life and death, we need to protect it whenever and however possible. And so our hope with the series is ultimately that people will experience what Christine did on that one, that's a day, right? There's 364 more in the year. So we have to be that community for each other that holds each other up, or people lose hope.
I will say like what is encouraging is when we've interviewed people, I mean, we've been interviewing, the expert doctors on the subject. We've been interviewing an anesthesiologist who she refuses to perform MAiD because her conscience wouldn't allow it. And she did. She performed one procedure in a MAiD operation, or MAiD, somebody taking MAiD, and she couldn't do it again. She says, I can't do this again. And that's encouraging that there is an element of the doctors, the experts, and the people who are involved. They don't agree with the road that we're going down, and that we need to be encouraged by that. And we need to support more professionals and experts to be able to share those thoughts and to be free to live their, they're in the truth and walk in the truth.
Well, the human spirit, I think we said this earlier, the human spirit just wasn't made for this. Well, I hate to use the word, but there we are. Made for this. Doctors in the Netherlands and Belgium, they need days off after because of the trauma of the actual procedure. And the other thing that strikes me is, we hear about suicide ideation. We hear about the idea that, well, somebody does it, well, it makes it a little easier for the next person to do it. Are we seeing this type of thing with euthanasia, with medical aid in dying, where it's like, well, they did it, maybe it's okay. And then, of course, from the providers, well, it's become mainstream, so let's just push it. Are we seeing that kind of ideation, if you will, happen now? We used to see it with suicide. Now we're seeing it with assisted suicide.
Well, we're undoubtedly seeing it if you just solely look at the numbers, and the people that are performing these seem to love these statistics. They're on a curve that goes like this. I don't know if you can see my hand. It started down here because there was 0, and now we're at over 10,000 a year, and it's been going up incrementally by percentage, which, because they haven't actually opened it up broadly, really. Like, there's supposed to be these safeguards in place, and that's going to go right out the window in March of 2024. But because it's actually not really broadened that much, why is that rate increasing so much? And that has to be ideation, because one of the things that we found in some of even our own personal loved ones and people that are close to us, they feel guilty if they don't get MAiD. So they actually, because it's on the table, and this is that Murphy's Law sort of notion, it's because the door is cracked. Like, if that door isn't cracked, you never have to think about it, and you'll never consider assisted suicide. But when you crack the door, you're going to have somebody in your extended network of people that's going to say, like, wouldn't this be better for you? And there's this kind of notion of, well, that's like true ideation, right? It's like, think about this, right? And so now you're thinking about something, like you said, human spirit was never supposed to even consider. And the numbers don't lie. I mean, they've been withholding for now 5 months the report on 2022's numbers. It's expected to be dramatically higher than 2021. And it was supposed to be reported in June, and this is late October at the time of this interview. So what are they hiding? Is that number so unbelievably high that all of Canada should go on strike? Like, that's the kind of thing that's happening. And they haven't even expanded it broadly compared to where they're headed.
So the warning signs there, like, is, it just seems to be, hello, stop. I mean, you've got Bill C-314 there, Ed Fast bill, pretty much a tie. I mean, yes, of course, I think 16 or 17 votes, if I'm not mistaken. But still, in a house that has hundreds of seats, that's a pretty darn close. It's like, this is a country divided on this issue. I mean, you'd be thinking they're saying, hold up. just hold up. I mean, I know speaking at the Canadian Physicians for Life dinner or annual conference last year. I go every year. I wasn't able to go this year, but last year there was a doctor that spoke that said people with mental illness this doctor had patients that were waiting for this bill, waiting for the law to be expanded, waiting for medical aid in dying to be expanded because they would be first in line. Like, to me, where are we going? This is absolutely insane that we are not saying put on the brakes. Gentlemen, you're there right into it right now. Can you tell me why there is this kind of indifference, this ignoring of the facts that, hey, we got a situation in our hands that we gotta stop?
Well, I think a lot of people who aren't suffering greatly aren't thinking about their suffering, right? And so there's a lot of people who are complacent because they don't know and they're not tuned in. And that's one of the reasons for our series is, well, we didn't know. And, we're filmmakers, we're following the news. We've been following different issues in Canada. And I barely knew about medical assistance in dying in Canada and where it was at when we started the series. So I think part of it is getting awareness out there and having people aware of what is actually happening and who it's happening to and who's looking into expanding this and like what's the support system behind that. Because I don't think the nation, like you said, is divided. I think more people, I know more people are against adding mental health as a sole condition. More people are against it than are for it. So how are we, even in Parliament, how are we even that close? I think it's an awareness issue. Constituents need to tell their politicians what they really think about it. And, like a lot of the quiet voices take a while to be heard, and so we have to get people aware and then speaking up so that the real numbers come forward, because otherwise we're not going to make a change politically. It'll only be what we're doing behind the scenes that will matter.
Yeah, I think it's up to us now as as concerned citizens to raise the alarm bells in a very just and a very firm way with our MPs, with our MPPs, with the Minister of Health, with our ministers of health in each province, because the more we do, the more they will see. I mean, I remember one of my screenings of Fatal Flaws when I was in Australia, and they were trying to pass these laws. And this guy came up to me after the film, and he was a big guy, and he looked me in the eye, and he looked like he was going to start to cry. And he says, Kevin, he says, before I came here, he says, I was in favor, he says, but you shifted me out of neutral on this issue. This film shifted me out of neutral. And I think as we as filmmakers tell these stories, which the other side does so well, people do get shifted out of neutral, because neutrality is not really a position when it comes to this. It's actually not a good position to be in anything when it comes to a moral stance. Can you speak to that idea of people say, well, maybe I'll be in that case one day, so I'm not going to say anything. Is this a good position to have? Should we be allowing this kind of position, or what should we be saying to encourage people to dig deeper into the issue?
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, the scripture that pops to mind, one of them is, I would rather that you were hot or cold, because if you're lukewarm, I'll spit you out of my mouth. And I mean, to be neutral is what's the word? Neutered, right? If you don't have anything to stand on, then you're just fading away into the background. And I mean, there's just not any believability that you stand for life if you don't actually stand for it. So it's like that was one thing that the March for Life really did resonate in my spirit, was like, the beautiful thing about this is like, these people all stand for something, and what they stand for is righteous. I mean, it is the truth that life, and no matter, like you said, whether you're able-bodied or disable-bodied, the dignity and the value and the precious gift of being made in the image of God. There's nothing in all this incredible, vast universe that compares to those of us made in God's image. And we are to be treasured. We are to be fought for. And don't let anybody tell you that your life doesn't matter, no matter what it looks like. That's the thing, right? And I think ultimately, like Matt said, I mean, we went into this with a lack of knowledge. I mean, people perish for lack of knowledge, and now that we have that knowledge, like, we're going to fight for life harder than ever. And I think the fruit of it is that we've had people reaching out to us saying, like you had with your film, like, man, this has shifted my view. This is something I will take action on. And this is amazing. We've had family members say our family chose to not do MAiD now. Because it's, in many cases, it's a familial decision, right?
Yes.
And it's like siblings and spouses and people talking around a table, right?
Yeah.
And for them to then say, we will be with you to the end. I mean, it puts a tear in my eye that we will fight for every last breath, because that's how precious the breath of God is. And so let's do that as a country.
Yeah, a little reference to one of your other films there that we screened, Breath of God, right?
Breath of Life.
Breath of Life, thank you, which many of you will remember seeing on Life on Film. If you haven't, check it out, because that is what Daniel is referencing, that every breath, every moment is a gift from God, and to take away any of those moments is to do a disservice, is to steal from our own life, to steal that gift from God, that precious, precious gift. And so, let's talk then about that. We're starting to go into the well, if you will, the solution, or at least what we can do in a day-to-day when it comes to this. I'd like to speak to those I call them prophets of hope, because that's kind of my ministry that I speak about, those prophets of hope that you have met along the way, those that are standing up, those that are being that light to others besides yourselves. Can you speak to some of those people in the series and perhaps in this particular episode that you went, wow, God bless you, man, for your work?
Yeah, I know, like in the Canada's Heroes one, Mark Meinke's been really great. He went through a lot of mental anguish, PTSD, and really God saved his life miraculously. And that story's, you guys just watched that. He's been amazing with veterans and with people who are suffering PTSD. And so he does the arm wrestling club. Mm-hmm. And we were able to participate in that on one of their arm wrestling days. And that was really great. And it seems so, maybe when you hear it, it sounds trivial, but when you're there and you see these guys who are connecting, they're connecting hand to hand and really close together, and it's physical exertion, and there's just this kind of like manly bond that kind of happens, and women are there too, and it's just this physical bond that happens in a kind of a competitive atmosphere that it doesn't matter who wins or loses. It really has made an impact on a lot of people, and that's one example of just like getting involved in your community and with your something that you can even benefit from. In Mark's case, he really benefited from that personally, for that camaraderie and that experience he has in the arm wrestling club. But Mark Meinke's one. We had Sonia Gained is a doctor who we interviewed, and he stopped performing MAiD because he didn't think that the safeguards and the studies and everything that they're using to justify it were enough for someone in his profession to carry them out. And he really needs to be honored for doing that and stepping out, and really his peers, are a part of it. And he said, no, I can't do it. And so those are people who are really stepping out and leading the way in their own way to make a difference. When really they don't have to, right? They're doing it because they feel convicted to make a stand. And I think that's really admirable.
I was interesting. One of the doctors I interviewed for Fatal Flaws, Dr. William Toffler out of Oregon, he says, if society deems that this is something that we really need, euthanasia, assisted dying, medical aid in dying. Let's call it what it is, euthanasia. He says, if society deems it something we want, it should not be part of the medical system. It should be outside of the medical system. And I thought that was a very profound thought. Not necessarily that I wanted there, but yes, we've always been, as a society, people that care. We never kill. And to bring this in is just so against everything that we are as a society, everything that we are as a medical profession. And so, gentlemen, I want to thank you for bringing these stories to light. Now, there's a few more episodes that people can watch. We featured 2 of them already on Life on Film. What are the remaining episodes?
Yeah, the one we're working on right now is a real heart-wrencher, and they all are, but it's ODE, which stands for organ donation euthanasia. It opens up a whole other gamut of ethical questions about not only euthanasia, but also organ donation connected to that. And what, you mentioned the medical field, what will happen, what could happen. I mean, what could happen will happen in terms of letting somebody die so that somebody else gets something from their body. And it creates a whole unbelievable series of thoughts and ethical questions. But so organ donation, euthanasia is the next episode coming soon. All of these you can get at UnveilTV. And the last one is a very interesting one about the finances of euthanasia, following the money, and what does that look like? And is there something undergirding this from a government support level that in their minds actually justifies this approach because of the cost of, say, palliative care versus the cost of ending someone's life? So those are the last 2 episodes.
Wow. Well, I look forward to those. I know from some of my research, the doctors have said, what's the most expensive year of your life? Well, it's your final year. And if we can shorten that, well, the dollars, it's actually just sickening to think about it in that light, but so important to discuss it now before, these laws are expanded. Gentlemen, can you give me that website one more time, and then maybe just tell us a little bit about your work outside of this field? Because I know this isn't your only topic. This isn't your only production. You have some wonderful work that you do.
So MAiDInCanada.org is where we've hosted this series, and that leads you to UnveilTV, which is our channel where we have our content on there and other content. We're releasing full interviews from the MAiD series on there as well now, and then some of our upcoming work will be there as well. But UnveilTV.com, we have an app. You can get it right on any of your devices there on your phones. To watch it wherever you are. And when you support us there, that helps us make the next thing. So we're trying to put everything we have on UnveilTV so that we can keep producing content and hopefully inspiring the world as we do it.
Awesome. Was there any other program that you wanted to promote that's coming up on some of your other programming? Yeah, well, we like Matt said, we have all of our past work, documentaries, features. She Has a Name, Dream is another series we did, and Breath of Life. Those are really uplifting series. But we are also working, and this is, can we tell them? Should we tell them? I think we should. We're working on a biblical epic on the character of Daniel right now, which we're developing and starting to shoot some footage in India. So you can be praying for that, but also expecting something that will dramatically inspire. Well, gentlemen, I have to thank you on behalf of everybody watching tonight, on behalf of Canadians everywhere, the veterans who you feature in this film. Thank you for the work that you do. Speaking personally as a filmmaker, I've just enjoyed so much our friendship over the past couple of years as I've gotten to know you and your work. It's very inspiring, I guess, and certainly lifts me up to know that there are other people, other filmmakers out there who are concerned about what these laws, and in the case of abortion, these lack of laws, are doing to the moral fabric of this country. To all of you watching at home, I know I can speak for you when I thank these 2 gentlemen for the work that they do. And please do get out there, support them online with the website you see on the screen. Well, gentlemen, once again, thank you for joining us tonight for this incredible, incredible episode of Made in Canada, Canada's Heroes. And thank you to all of you for joining us for this Life on Film. We'll be back next month and throughout the next year as we present monthly features on the dignity of the human person. This is Life on Film, a presentation of the National March for Life. My name is Kevin Dunn. God bless you and good night.